Hi guys, welcome back to another PsychE-Learning video. I'm Alexandra, and if you're interested, we posted 2 videos last week. I posted a video on Tuesday about some of the different unethical experiments that have taken place in psychology's history, and Hesna posted a video on Saturday about getting inside the mind of a psychopath. So feel free to go check those out. If not, today I'm going to be posting a video about incels, so if that topic interests you, feel free to keep watching. My inspiration for doing a video on incels this week was that I've seen on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter the word incel being thrown around quite a lot, just at men in general. If they say something sexist or if they disagree with somebody, I've seen the word thrown out quite a bit. So I'll put in some TikToks here just so you guys can kind of familiarize yourself with my inspiration. Woo! 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 What the F happened? What happened? What happened? The boulder feels conflicted about fighting a blind young girl. Sounds to me like you're scared, Boulder. The boulder's over his conflicted feelings. Baby, I'm a different breed. This piqued my interest quite a bit, because if you break down the word itself, incel just stands for involuntarily celibate. So I was like, why are we being so rude to people who just can't have sex because of either they feel like it's their appearance or their personality or just they're awkward around women, so they're unable to have sex even though they want to. Why are we being so harsh on them? Why is that term used as an insult? So I decided to dig a bit deeper into what goes on in the incel community, what it means exactly, and the history of incels. Basically, incels are an online community, kind of like an online subculture, that promote male supremacy through different rhetoric, different beliefs, different types of stuff. And it's gotten to the point that they've actually been labeled a terrorist organization by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And I'll get into the reason why this is a little bit later on. But for some of their beliefs and their values from their online community, I looked at incels.co. Obviously, if you know other websites or whatever that people post about incel culture, or if you're an incel yourself, feel free to comment and I'll definitely check that stuff out, because maybe what I discovered isn't entirely accurate or what actual incels themselves feel, but this is the stuff that was just kind of readily available on the internet. So some of their beliefs that I've seen is, the first one that I saw that I read a whole thread on was that they don't believe that women feel pain. I found this thread on incels.co that was showing the argument as to why women have a higher pain tolerance than men, and not just a higher pain tolerance, but they get off on pain. And the first point he made was that there were apparently reports that Joan of Arc, when she was burned at the cross, was having an orgasm while being burned to death. And I won't go into too many graphic things, and I'll try to blur out a lot of the curse words and things that are on this because there's a ton. But he was saying that her genitals could be seen lubricated at the end of the fire. So even though she was burned to death, that obviously they could tell she had experienced an orgasm because of this. So he got off to a pretty interesting start. And then some of his points, which I screenshotted as the most interesting, at least to me, was the first one said medication. Opioids and anesthetics are inherently dangerous to administer to women, since there is a greater chance of overdose and addiction. As a result, it would be beneficial for their safety if anesthetics were not administered during female patient surgeries. Anesthesia can be replaced with acupuncture for female patients, which, as shown above, has comparable efficacy and far less risk. This will also increase supply and decrease demand of anesthesia medication, leading to a decrease in the cost of expensive anesthesia procedures. So due to his argument, he says that women should not receive anesthesia at all during surgeries, that they should just have acupuncture during it, because clearly that is more than enough to dull the pain of whatever they're experiencing. His next point is about abortion, and this is a topic I saw heavily debated and heavily discussed on incels.co, but I'll go ahead and read this point to you guys. So, abortion. Many current proponents of abortion justify the legality of early-term abortion by the logic that the baby does not yet feel pain. Following this logic, it would seem that crimes are more serious the more pain is caused, but women essentially feel no physical pain as shown above. To maintain legal consistency, it follows that either abortion must be classed as murder, or crimes that cause bodily injury, battery, and domestic assault to women should not be punished as harshly as those which cause bodily injury to men. So for this one, he's trying to make a link to people who are pro-choice, saying that aborted babies in the first term or earlier on do not feel any pain from the abortion. So therefore, women who are raped and abused and domestically assaulted, they should let their assaulters go free, and people who abuse them shouldn't be punished because women feel no pain. So therefore, only crimes that cause bodily injury to men should be held up to the law, and the rest of them, since obviously we feel no pain, shouldn't matter. The third point that I saw that kind of raised my brow, and mind you, this was kind of my first experience with incels. This was like the first post I saw, so this was a lot to take in because I hadn't really seen anything else yet. But the third one, called Scientific Studies, says German scientists and physicians made great medical advances in the 1940s due to their progressive genetic research and innovative surgical experimentation, particularly in the area of twins. This was a time of medical enlightenment, and many of the concepts they discovered are still used today. Various legislative considerations, however, prevent us from conducting similar studies today. However, since our knowledge of the nature of human suffering was then incomplete and now we are more informed, some of these restrictions can now be loosened on experimentation on female subjects. So this was very interesting for me to read because this guy is using an argument that in the 1940s, because they tested on twins and they made great medical advancements, but we shut that type of stuff down because, you know, it's cruel and inhumane. We should now be allowed to do that on women. Not necessarily to the furthest extent. He didn't really classify what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed, but he is saying that we should test on women and use them as our test subjects since we apparently feel no pain. If you would watch my last video where I discussed different unethical psychological experiments, there was one woman, Emma Eckstein, who was experimented on, and she almost lost her life from what they did to her. So it's a bit interesting for me to read because there's plenty of evidence in past medical, psychological, whatever history that show women actually being hurt and abused due to this stuff. But clearly this guy's research has shown that women should be allowed to be test subjects. One thing you'll notice a lot on different incel threads is that they'll post all the reasons why they can't get women, and usually they say it's because they're not a Chad. So a Chad is the sexiest man you can imagine, a 10 out of 10, the perfect man, and then it goes from a Chad to a Chad light. So still a pretty hot guy, not necessarily a 10 out of 10, not the most beefed up, jacked guy out there, but still a hot guy. And then there are normies, and there are incels. So incels just can't get anything at all. Normies are the average everyday person. Chad lights, you know, they can still get some action, and Chads are the ones that women absolutely thirst over and want. And when I read some of the different incel posts to you, you'll see kind of the rhetoric they use in regards to Chads and the other ones. But it's just kind of interesting to me that because they don't consider themselves above the incel tier, they therefore can't get women. Whether it's their looks, their personality, the way they dress, the way they carry themselves, but they never once stop to think, maybe I can't get women because I don't treat them like human beings. There was a documentary that's posted here on YouTube called Shy Boys IRL. I'll put the link below, which was very interesting to see. And there is a conversation among some of the incels who met up with each other where they're talking about women and their inability to get women. And one of them is like, oh, like women should be treated as humans or whatever. And then one other guy was like, no, you shouldn't think that. That's not how you should think. They aren't, which was very interesting to see. When you go through all the different incel threads, you'll notice that the terminology they use in regards to women really shows that they view women as subhuman and not necessarily their equals, people who don't think as highly as they do. They have low IQs and things like that. And one of them is a feminoid, and they call it a foid. So this one you'll see a lot. They say foid constantly. They also refer to women as toilets. I don't think I need to explain that one. And then the last one, which is probably one of the more derogatory ones I saw, was referring to women as a roasty. And I had to Google this one, to be honest, because it just didn't immediately jump in my brain what it could be. And they're essentially using this as a derogatory slur against the female genitalia. So they're basically calling women roast beef in that kind of terminology. So they'll be like, oh, these stupid roasties, or these stupid toilets and things like that. I wanted to read to you guys some of the different screenshots that I've taken from incels.co, just so you can see how they speak about women when they don't think women are looking, which obviously a woman was looking, and I'm sure other women have seen this because it's a free form. I didn't have to sign up or anything. You can just go look. So feel free to go look, but I'll read these to you guys now so it really paints a picture. But okay, to get started, the deeper underlying psychology in all of this, that to remain feminine and to maximize feminine polarity, she must always feel like she is submissive. Getting physically handled makes her submissive. It's a huge black pill, I'll explain that later, because good-looking women are usually effing stupid, and the stupider a woman is, the more you have to maintain this dog-whispering effing dichotomy. You can't treat her like a human. All subhuman, TBH. Only Aryan girls matter. The most important line of the article, I have an advanced degree and make a pretty good living on my own. I don't need blah, blah, blah. This is where it all went wrong. Letting women into college, letting women get jobs. This is in reference to an article that was posted on one of the threads that was basically a woman saying that she only likes hot men and she only likes guys who are a certain way, and if you're ugly and if you try to talk to her, she's disgusted and don't come near her. And apparently the article has been disproven, and it's been written by a man pretending to be a woman, and a lot of the incels will acknowledge this. They'll be like, hey, this was actually written by a man, but women think like this anyway. So they, even though it's not a true article written by a woman, they're still like, yeah, but women think like this. I know a woman didn't say it, but a woman thinks like this, so interesting. What's the real difference between cute and smart girls, really? They're both degenerate and stupid have the nerve to complain about street harassment and a guy touching their butt when they're dressed like STD-ridden about what we all know and likely have already seen similar posts. Foids of all attractiveness hate ugly men, short men, everyone that isn't Chad. They might use and resent a man who is a few notches away from that Chad-light upper tier normie, but he will always be her third choice at best. Never approach these holes. Never help them. Stay the F away. Another thing I notice is they oftentimes refer to women as just holes. Like, that's it. Point blank. They'll refer to a woman as a hole. So as you can see, the incel rhetoric and terminology really stamps in the fact that they don't view women as equals or as human beings, essentially. We're just toilets, roasties, foids to them. So that really interests me, that they think that they can't get women just because of how they are, appearance-wise, or the way they dress or whatever, but not because of the fact that they view women as so insignificant and so irrelevant. One explanation for why they might speak like this and not see it as the reason why that they can't get women is the black pill philosophy. So this is heavily referenced throughout incel rhetoric, and this is basically reference to the Matrix movies and the red/blue pill, and it's viewed as a third alternative. So this basically is like a negative view on life, that no matter your success in life, no matter how much money, no matter how much you look, your success with the opposite sex is determined at birth, and there's nothing you can do to change it. You'll see this oftentimes on incel threads where they'll post a picture of a guy with what they deem as an ugly face, but having a super ripped body. And they'll be like, oh, if only I can work out, if only I can, you know, get muscles like this, I'm gonna try really hard, then maybe I can get a girl. And they'll comment to each other and be like, no, this is just how you are. It's the way you've been since birth. Even getting muscles won't get these foids to like you. Some of the points in the black pill philosophy is that they view that women can go above their sexual market value, and that women tend to aim for more attractive partners than themselves. So they'll view a guy like an 8 out of 10, and he can only get a 6 out of 10 girl, because women aim up and they're unable to. In the Shy Boys IRL, you will also see one of the guys there. He's constantly saying, he's like, I will take any fat girl, any huge girl, any ugly fat girl on the planet, I would take her, but I can't get her.
I would do anything just for a 300-pound ugly white girl. I would fight in the front lines, the bloodiest battle the world has ever seen, and come back with no limbs, if it meant that that would guarantee me an ugly fat chick for life.
So therefore he's kind of implementing the black pill philosophy in his everyday life, because he's like, he'll literally say, he'll be like, oh, look at that whale, I can't get her. So he's just further, you know, proving this point to himself and proving his confirmation bias that he can't get with anybody. And another aspect is traditionally masculine men have a more successful sex life, and then also race pill. So they're very fond of using the terminology blank pill. And so for this, they have a hierarchy for men of different races. So to them, white men have more success than any other race. And then it's black men, and then it goes further along. I won't go into too many details because I think it's a bit racist to say that, but that's what they say constantly all over their site. And this is definitely impossible to be proven false by incels, because they do not accept any articles, any research done that disproves this, and they'll call somebody who is able to have sex or get into a relationship after many, many years and call them a fake cell, like they're not a real incel because they were able to succeed. So they just refuse to accept that this isn't the truth and that only the black pill philosophy is the way of life for them. This last part of the video is probably the more serious end of everything. Before, it was just incels kind of speaking in theory and saying like, we hate women, why can't we get women, that type of stuff, not really inciting violence against women. Like, yes, kind of they were, but they weren't really going out and doing it. It was just they were fantasizing. But one guy did. Actually, multiple men have. Female abuse, feminicide is on the rise in so many countries, but one guy actually put the incel rhetoric into real life, and this was Elliot Rodger, and he killed 7 people and injured 14 people in Isla Vista, California, back in 2014, and he wanted to strike back at those who didn't really accept him into their social circles, and this was mainly placing the blame on popular women that he couldn't get with just because of who he was as a person, or so he claimed. And he was like, why can't I get these women? I'm a supreme gentleman. I'm the nicest guy out there. Why can't I get these women? I treat them exactly how they deserve, and that type of stuff. He also wrote a manifesto that got published online. When he went on his shooting spree, he emailed it to his parents and his therapist, but it got leaked to journalists, so of course incels have access to it. And they really like to use his name as if it's a verb. So they'll say, I'm going to go totally Elliot Rodger, or I'm going ER. So they'll see a post that makes them filled with rage about women, and then they'll say, I'm going ER. And I also noticed a lot of them had profile pictures of Elliot Rodger on the site and other people who have killed and abused women. So that was all over the website. And he has inspired others to follow suit. Alec Manassian drove a van into pedestrians in Toronto and posted to his Facebook page that the incel rebellion had begun, so he clearly went out to kill these pedestrians just to try to spark a revolution and to get other people in the incel community inspired to do the same. And then another guy opened fire in a yoga studio in Tallahassee, and he had posted some YouTube videos earlier on like a couple years before that basically said he identified with incels, and he said a bunch of misogynistic and awful things about women. So these guys and plenty of others, these were just the main examples. There were quite a few other incels who have gone out and actually put these words to action. But these guys use this rhetoric to justify the things that they're doing to women and other people. There were also men killed in these attacks. Just as an example of how the men on incels.co kind of relate and feel to Elliot Rodgers and the others, I took some more screenshots of them trying to incite violence against women, so I'll read that now. You're not entitled to sex is a fake buzz phrase meant to shut down any actual discussion of the incel problem. Of course we're not entitled to sex, but we want it. And when we don't get it, based largely on genetic factors determined from conception, and when we're even hated for those factors our whole lives, why wouldn't some of us feel the need to resort to violence or misogyny? So somebody had previously said, to the next void that says it, I'd like to tell them they aren't entitled to air, as I'm strangling the life out of them. And then somebody responded to that and said, this is a legit reply. Coitus creates life. The phrase, you're not entitled to sex, is just negation of life, so you can just kill the female who stated it. The last one, and Foids will assault the man in public, so they have a large supply of white knights to fight on their behalf should the guy retaliate. I've always dreamed about the perfect opportunity to hit a woman, in self-defense, but cucks won't allow it. So this last guy is, and I've noticed on this thread he commented multiple times about how much he just wants the opportunity to hit a woman, in self-defense though. Obviously he's not just gonna go hit a woman, he's just dying and dreaming about the idea of a woman randomly attacking him, so that way he can hit them back. So that was interesting to me to see that. Alright, so we've reached the end of the video. If you guys are interested about incels and all that stuff, feel free to click the links I have down below. And also, if you feel like you are part of the incel community and I misrepresented you guys and that you feel like there's a different side of things, feel free to comment. I'm happy to have a discussion and to be enlightened about the way you guys are. This wasn't necessarily meant to be a hateful video. I just went into this trying to find what I could, and what I did find was a bit shocking. But if there is a side of the community that isn't so hateful and spiteful towards women, I'm more than happy to look into that and maybe make another video as well. I will stand corrected if you correct me, no problem. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I know this probably wasn't the most fun and upbeat video to watch, but I do think it is important to look at this kind of stuff online and to just know what's going on in the world instead of just living in ignorance and thinking that everybody is equal in today's society, when clearly stuff like this proves that there are still people out there who hate women and are very sexist and very misogynistic. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.